Nintendo's actually deleted parts of their history. I'm not talking about delisted eShop games, I mean games that physically exist on people's systems but just can't be played at all anymore, and games that have been basically erased from existence. From live broadcast SNES titles to Wii U games that died with their servers, these are Nintendo's lost games, the ones we can never officially play again. Before online stores, before Switch Online, Nintendo had already tried something truly ahead of its time. And it's one of the reasons we can talk about lost Nintendo games in the first place. Back in the mid-90s, Japan had this satellite-based add-on for the Super Famicom called the Satellaview. It connected through a service called St.GIGA, and basically let players download game broadcasts through satellite radio. You turn in during specific time slots, download the data onto a rewritable cartridge, and often play along with live radio narration and synchronized music. Think of it like an early version of cloud gaming, only instead of buffering, you were literally catching game data from orbit. But here's the catch. Once the broadcast ended, the game went with it. The cartridge would overwrite itself when a new event began, so when the servers went offline around 2000, that was it. The games, the live commentary, and the time events just all vanished. Fans have managed to salvage bits and pieces, but the original experiences, the ones that aired in real time, are just gone forever. Let's go over some of the most iconic examples of this. BS The Legend of Zelda. Nintendo's first broadcast game was an ambitious remake of the NES Legend of Zelda. It was streamed in 4 weekly episodes, and it wasn't just a straight port. Like, this version had a new overworld layout, a real-time clock that changed the game world every few minutes, and even a live voice actor narrating the adventure in real time through your satellite radio. At one point, the announcer would literally warn players of an upcoming monster, and then right on cue, the event would literally happen in-game. It's one of the earliest examples of a live service game, decades before that term existed. Fans have recreated it using ROM dumps and even scripts, but the original broadcast with its synced music and narration is just completely unplayable today. And there was another Zelda game, BS Zelda Ancient Stone Tablets. So this was a brand new game considered a remake or a sequel to A Link to the Past, and exclusive to the Satellaview. In this game, you played as the hero of Light instead of Link, and it released in 4 timed episodes, each only playable for an hour before the next broadcast. The game had fully voiced characters, special weather effects, and a running commentary from the announcers. Today, fans have painstakingly rebuilt it through patches and recovered audio fragments, but the original broadcast experience, that feeling of logging in to hear the live narration while racing a timer, it's completely gone. It's essentially a Zelda game lost in time. From one big series to another, we have BS Super Mario Collection. Like, if you've ever wanted to see Super Mario All-Stars turned into a live event, this was pretty much it. Nintendo broadcasted parts of the game with special challenges, like clearing stages within strict time limits or collecting hidden items before the broadcast ended. It was meant to be replayed only during its broadcast window, meaning the game itself expired. A few fragments of data still exist, but there's no surviving ROM that includes all the event triggers and time sequences. Fans have tried to restore it, but the original version was designed to be temporary, and it's a Mario game that basically just erased itself. BS F Zero Grand Prix 1 and 2. So these were expanded versions of the SNES F-Zero, featuring completely new tracks and real-time audio commentary from the announcers. Imagine watching a live sports broadcast while playing, and the voice actors would actually comment on performances, shout out lap times, and even trigger in-game hazards on cue. You technically can play the recovered track data today, but without the broadcast layer, no voices, no real-time events, no leaderboard uploads, the experience is hollow compared to what fans in Japan got for just a few weeks in 1996. Staying on the topic of racing, we have BS Excitebike, Bun Bun Mario Battle Stadium, and this one sounds fake because that name's a little ridiculous, but I promise you it was real. It was Mario characters racing motorcycles in an Excitebike spin-off. Every week's episode introduced new courses and broadcast commentary. And like F-Zero, once the broadcast ended, the tracks vanished. ROMs of all 4 episodes have been found, but they're missing music and the live narration that really made it feel like a televised race. So even though you can technically play the files, the full experience, the way Nintendo intended it, it's completely gone. For this next one, if I mispronounce this, I'm sorry about that. BS Fire Emblem Archanea Senki. So this was a 4-part Fire Emblem side story meant to expand the lore of Shadow Dragon. It's often called the Lost Fire Emblem because it was never re-released outside of a later DS remake, and even then, it was a heavily altered version. The Satellaview version featured a narrator, full Japanese voice acting, and a serialized storytelling format that played out weekly. Only fan restorations survive, and even those rely on piecing together screenshots and partial audio. It's a key part of Fire Emblem history that's officially inaccessible. And for the last game, we have BS Dr. Mario. BS Dr. Mario broadcast national high score competitions, uploading results through the satellite connection. Both ROMs exist in fragmented form, but without the broadcast timing, they don't function as intended like these other games. The global competitions, leaderboards, announcer queues, once again, just all gone. The Satellaview era is fascinating because it shows Nintendo experimenting with ideas we now take for granted. Digital distribution, live events, even online leaderboards, but it also represents the first time Nintendo created games meant to disappear. Even though fans have rebuilt many of them, the authentic versions, the ones people experienced live in the 90s, are just permanently unplayable. And this wasn't the last time Nintendo did it. In fact, decades later, they would do it all over again, only this time on a much bigger stage. So now on to a far more modern game, and one that a lot of you probably did play. We have Super Mario Bros. 35. So after all those lost broadcast games from the 90s, you'd think Nintendo learned their lesson about making games that literally delete themselves, but nope, 3 decades later, they did the exact same thing again, and this time exclusively with Mario. In October 2020, to celebrate Mario's 35th anniversary, Nintendo released Super Mario Bros. 35, which was a free exclusive for Switch Online subscribers. It was a battle royale twist on the original NES Super Mario Bros., where 35 players ran through stages simultaneously, sending enemies to each other's screens as they cleared levels. It was chaotic and fun, and it was actually one of the best anniversary ideas Nintendo ever had. The catch, it was temporary. From the very moment it was announced, Nintendo made it clear the game would only be playable until March 31st, 2021. No physical version, no way to play offline, no preservation plan, just 6 months of existence before being erased from the eShop. When the server shut down, that was it. Even if you had it downloaded, the game simply refused to actually work. Just displays a message saying the services ended and returns you to the home screen. It's not even that it's just delisted, but it's just dead software. Players loved it too, and it actually breathed new life into one of the most overplayed games ever. There were legitimate strategies, speedrunning elements, and competitive metas forming, but right when it was hitting its stride, it vanished. Nintendo called it a limited time celebration, but it felt like more of an experiment that didn't need to be temporary. Like, I would have loved to see more modes in this of more Mario games. Like, it couldn't have been that difficult to hold up on the eShop and have servers for it. Like, this was basically a reincarnation of the Satellaview for the modern age, like a game that you can only play for a certain amount of time before it was gone for good. But I guess as bad as it was, it's not like it came out of nowhere. Like, Nintendo announced right at the beginning that this was a limited time release, but there's some games that really just came out of nowhere and just shut down. When Nintendo entered the mobile market in the mid-2010s, they promised to take their beloved franchises and reimagine them for everyone's phones. What we actually got was a wave of online-only apps that, in hindsight, were basically digital time bombs. Once the server shut down, they basically became unplayable. Not delisted, not outdated, but just completely gone. Nintendo's first mobile experiment wasn't even a game in the traditional sense. It was more like a quirky social network built around your Mii. So this was Miitomo, and I actually remember getting this the day it came out. Like, this was a big deal at the time. You'd create a Mii character, answer funny personal questions, visit friends, earn outfits through coins and minigames. I actually did a few videos on this all the way back in 2016, but those videos are long private now. This was the first time Nintendo had made a mobile game and published games off their own platforms. Well, first time since the Philips CDI, but even they didn't publish those games. But anyway, Miitomo was charming, weird, and surprisingly addictive for a little bit, even though it seemed like Nintendo just wanted your data. But the thing about Miitomo is that it relied entirely on servers. Every conversation, every reward, even your Mii's personality was synced online. So when Nintendo pulled the plug in 2018, the entire app stopped functioning overnight. You can open the icon if you still have it, but all you get is an error message. Just no offline mode, no local data, there's absolutely nothing. Now this one actually hurt. Dr. Mario World was Nintendo's attempt to bring one of their classic puzzle series to mobile, complete with new characters like Dr. Bowser, Dr. Peach, even Dr. Goomba Tower. I guess anyone can become a doctor these days. It had competitive leaderboards, online co-op, daily stages, but just like with every other game here, its reliance on online ended up being the end of it once it was shut down. It's wild when you think about it. Nintendo has been around for over a century, built its legacy on preservation and nostalgia, and yet in this modern era, they've created more temporary games than a lot of other developers. And that same temporary design philosophy didn't just hit their mobile titles, but it made its way into their handheld consoles too, especially the 3DS, because even if you still own one of those systems today, it's a game that just simply doesn't exist anymore no matter what you do. Dragalia Lost was Nintendo's first original IP for mobile, and it was co-developed with Cygames, and honestly it was great. Gorgeous art, full orchestral soundtrack, fun combat, it felt like a real RPG and not a cheap cash grab. But it was just always online, and once the servers were gone, the story, the events, every bit of progression data vanished. Dragalia Lost didn't die from lack of love, it died because Nintendo didn't want to keep it running. Even the developers at Cygames seemed surprised by how abruptly it ended. Now the app won't load past the title screen, leaving fans with one of Nintendo's most ambitious games simply doesn't exist anymore. Pokemon Duel's particularly strange. It was a Pokemon strategy board game that used digital figures you'd collect and battle with in online matches, and this game actually had depth and was doing well in Japan. But like others, it required a server connection for everything, and that service ended in 2019. Once again, no training mode, no offline mode. It was as if the game never existed. And this wasn't the only Pokemon game that got shut down. Pokemon Rumble Rush, which came out in 2019, had you exploring islands, collecting toy Pokemon, grinding for upgrades. It was repetitive but relaxing, until Nintendo shut down the servers just a year after launching. There are still Nintendo mobile games that still exist. Fire Emblem Heroes, Animal Crossing Pocket Camp, but it seems like they're just running on borrowed time. Nintendo decides they're done, and then they'll go the same way as Dragalia Lost or Dr. Mario World. If you owned a 3DS, chances are you remember the Nintendo Badge Arcade. That little pink bunny that constantly tries to sell you crane plays, it was Nintendo's way of turning your home menu into a customizable arcade. And you know what? It was weirdly charming. The idea was simple but addictive. You'd use a virtual claw machine or a hammer to win digital badges like little icons of Mario, Zelda, Pokemon, and dozens of other series. And then you'd stick them on your 3DS menu as decorations or shortcuts. There were new badges every day, seasonal events, and even exclusive crossover badges that would never return. It was basically Nintendo's answer to mobile gacha, just with a friendlier tone and a salesman bunny instead of a loot box. But here's the thing. The entire game depended on online servers. Like, even if you downloaded it, the crane machines, badge rotations, and events were all streamed from Nintendo's servers in real time. The moment those servers went down in 2023, alongside the 3DS and Wii U eShop closures, Nintendo Badge Arcade became completely unplayable. If you try to open it now, it doesn't even make it to the main menu. You get a connection error and that's it. All of your collected badges are still stored locally, but you can't earn new ones, visit the machines, or even interact with the bunny anymore, which may be the saddest part. It's a ghost of a game, and it's one that still technically exists on millions of 3DS systems, but can't actually function. And this one hurts more than most, because Badge Arcade wasn't just a throwaway app. Like, it was one of the most personality-driven Nintendo projects of the decade. The bunny would greet you with little jokes, comment on Nintendo Directs, and even break the fourth wall to talk about holidays or world events. People legitimately grew attached to it. It was like the 3DS's own little mascot. He's even on my channel banner. Of course, fans have backed up data, and modders have built offline versions that simulate the experience, but those are fan-made reconstructions. The real Badge Arcade, the one that changed every day with new machines dropping at midnight Japan time, and the bunny doing his weekly sales pitches, that's gone forever since Nintendo has never made a Switch or Switch 2 version of this when it's free money for them. Like, if they made this for Switch 2, that's instantly millions of dollars for them. They built a game about collecting little digital badges and then erased the ability to collect them. A game designed to celebrate Nintendo history that ended up becoming a piece of lost Nintendo history itself. For longtime watchers of my channel, you probably have seen my Badge Arcade video, but if you haven't, check out that video where I go a lot more in depth into this game, because it has a really interesting story. And for the final game I want to talk about here, it's technically one you still can play, but I do want to mention it. If there was ever a Nintendo game that truly defined player creativity, it was Super Mario Maker. It wasn't just a level editor, but it was a community. For the first time ever, Nintendo handed players the tools to design their own Mario stages, share them online, and build an endless library of content. I made like 70 stages on this, and I would always ask my friends to start my courses. Like, I loved this game when it came out. When it launched in 2015, Mario Maker was a phenomenon. People could play everything from brutal Kaizo courses to troll levels. You could play remakes of classic levels, Mario Party minigames, and musical stages. It was a goldmine of creativity, and Nintendo even used it in official events and live streams. But what made Mario Maker so special is also what doomed it. The entire experience depended on Nintendo's servers. Every level upload, every leaderboard, every star rating, and also the Miiverse integration, all of it was online. And when Nintendo decided to shut down the servers in April 2024, they didn't just kill the online mode, they effectively killed the game itself. If you boot up Mario Maker today, you can still build levels, you can even play the ones stored locally on your console, but the soul of the game and a lot of the reason for actually playing it is completely gone. You can't upload new levels, you can't browse or download anyone else's creations, you can't even look up course IDs. And that's not a small loss. By the time the servers went down, around 30 million courses had been uploaded. Every one of those is gone. Nintendo didn't archive them, they didn't port them, they just vanished. Years of creativity, millions of hours of player effort just all wiped out with the server flip. 3DS version isn't much better. While technically still functions offline, it never had level uploads to begin with. You could only share via local wireless, meaning its entire creative core was stripped from it day one. It was literally called Super Mario Maker, but it was missing half of what made Super Mario Maker special. And sadly, this will likely happen to Mario Maker 2 someday, and it's really sad because there's just so many great levels people poured hours into creating now that will just be exclusive to one person. And obviously Mario Maker 2 still does exist, so you can still play plenty of levels, but think about how many great levels were just lost in the original. And that's the video. I'm sure there's games I didn't mention here that could fit into this video, and I want to know, let me know in the comments if there's any that I forgot to talk about. And remember, I'm not talking about any games that were just delisted that are perfectly playable now. These are games that you cannot play officially anymore, outside of Mario Maker where you can still technically play it. If you enjoyed this video, you probably enjoy a lot of Nintendo content, maybe even some nostalgic games, and I have a lot of videos on that, like on the Pushmo series, on Box Boy, on Rusty's Real Deal Baseball, and of course on Badge Arcade like I mentioned. Also consider subscribing and liking this video just because it helps me out, and join my Discord to give me some more ideas for videos. Thank you for watching Domainy, and I'll see you next time.